Ni hao, hello. Phil, I'm still trying. 我叫 Stephanie. I am Stephanie. I am Stephanie. I am the Stephanie that is frustrated right now. I'm smiling because I finally had a meaty HSK3 day. It's been a while since I've been able to study that focused since the HSK2 test. I don't remember if it was, I think it was 2 weeks ago. Fair enough. I built in time to take off and I actually started studying the vocabulary, so I'm ahead on the vocabulary side. I'm only on chapter 2 in the HSK course book that has 20 chapters, but vocabulary-wise, 1 and 2 have already gone through the pre-vocabulary, which is turning into the new level 1 in the Lightner box, and I'll explain that later. It's the matching thing that I did an entire video on that I'm sure was really mind-numbingly boring to watch, but it's been really helpful to do as a new level 1 in the Lightner box. So I'm ahead. I've got both of those, so when I actually started doing chapter 2 today, I knew a lot of the vocabulary, and that really boosted my confidence because the end of HSK2 was so rushed and so hectic, and the test itself was so difficult that it kind of crushed me a little bit. No, I don't have my scores. It takes a month, so I still have a few more weeks to go. Okay, but I had a 2-hour session tonight, and what I did is on HSK3 chapter 2, I did what did I do? I did there's 4 parts of the listening. They're in 4 parts is 4 sections. Yeah, 5 questions each. The first one was the same as the other HSK levels. It's matching pictures with what you hear. The second one is matching pictures with what you hear. What's the difference? The exchanges get longer between the first part and the second part. And then it gets crazy and all the pictures go away and you have just a wall of Hansa. I put an example on it on my Instagram if you really want to cry. And that so the first hour was the first 2 parts. I'm doing HSK3 through my oh shit list from HSK2, meaning I'm spending more time on the transcripts. So I'm using the transcripts of the listening as a way to learn or reinforce the vocabulary, highlight the grammar, and read and get used to reading the Hansa characters without pinyin, because the transcripts have always been in Hansa, and if I have one bit of advice to people taking the HSK route or people really interested in reading, is cover up that damn pinyin. My gosh, I didn't realize how much of a crutch I was using that for until it was gone. Gone. It's still in bits in the HSK book, and I'll show you that later if you really want, but I'm using the wrong camera and it'll show up backwards and that would suck. But it's still there in little bits, but there's long bits where it's not, which is awesome for when I break through and it stops being so frustrating, but right now it's the awkward transition period. So I got through the first 2 listening, so 10 questions in an hour, including looking for the grammar points. There's 3 grammar points generally in each chapter, so I went into the course book first. I have an entire list of steps that I take each time I touch a new chapter. And one of them is to take notes on the grammar points. The notes, the explanations of the grammar points are awful. I put that on Instagram yesterday. I showed you an example of just how nonsensical they are, which is pretty on par with every other language book I've ever seen. So it's not anything extraordinarily awful, it's normal course book awful. So I made a note tonight. What I think I might do is take the idea of the grammar point they're highlighting and go into YouTube and look for some quick videos on people explaining it in a way that is understandable. So I might do that in the future. But right now I'm just highlighting and circling and numbering the grammar points that I see in the transcripts. So I probably want to see enough of it so that I start to kind of build up the trends, see it in its usage form, and then kind of guess what it is, even though I've already read the definition that doesn't make, or the explanation that doesn't make sense. Still look at it in a number of times and try to figure out what they mean, then go and search for those grammar videos where somebody explains it and see if our ideas match. See if what it really means and what I am assuming it means from the actual examples match. And I think that's probably the best way to go with my discovery method and I have to feel lost and confused before I look up the real answer or find out an explanation that makes sense, because that's when I turn into a sponge and that works. So I think that's the route that I need to go. I think I was trying to understand the grammar too much the first time, and the first time I see it, I'm not going to understand it. There's some that I do, but generally speaking, it's more intricate than that, and it's explained so badly. And there's still so many words, even though I'm okay on the HSK1, HSK2 vocabulary, there's still so many other words. Sorry, on the Chapter 1 and Chapter 2 vocabulary, there's so many words from HSK2 that I put in too fast, and so they've fallen out. So I have a huge review session with HSK2 vocabulary coming up tomorrow. Okay, so that's the first hour, was those two sections of 5 questions and 5 questions with the listening. I literally listened and read. Like, I had the transcript and I was listening, and I think I listened to each number, which is generally a conversation, very short conversation in the first section and longer in the second section, about 5 times each. Wait, is my IC on? It is so stinking hot in here. Okay, it's on. Sorry, I think it was in the 30s today, Celsius. So that was the first hour. So I had the transcripts, I was listening, reading, looking at the grammar points, circling things, literally writing like grammar point 1, grammar point 2, grammar point 3, and circling words that I didn't recognize or didn't remember. The second hour was when all the pictures went away. It was part 3 of the listening, and it was just the words. Just the words. Just the words. So it was kind of a new section, I think, where they gave you, like, you listen to somebody say a sentence, and then you're supposed to make an assumption. So it's actually a really short listening, but you really have to know what they're saying because there's so little context in that one sentence, and then you have to make an assumption. And you have to understand the assumption that they're making. And they write it all, again, in Hansa characters, no opinion at all. And you have to write check if the assumption is correct and X if the assumption is wrong. Yeah, so that was pretty hit and miss. When I understood all the vocabulary, that was easy. When I didn't, that was really hard. Go figure. That one and the speed of the listening has seriously increased with HSK3. So that one exercise of 5 questions with really short exchanges took me an hour. That included circling the grammar points, circling words I don't remember, looking up a few words I didn't remember, recognized but didn't remember, and just listening to it again about 5 times each, over and over and over and over and over, trying to get the rhythm of the language, trying to hear the syllables, because they went so fast that a lot of the syllables seem to go together, seem to blend together, and that's part of the language, so I want to learn that. So I'm going crazy on the listening because that's necessary. So again, I'm going to be really, really focusing on HSK3 through the transcripts, because that is a huge part, and it's got a lot of examples of the things I'm supposed to be learning. So I think that's what I really, really learned at the end of HSK2, is that the transcripts are gold, and I spent time on them, but I didn't use them as the main gateway into the level. And I think if I use them as supplementary reading and helping me hear and see at the same time, that by the time I get to the reading exercises, that'll be easier. Oh yeah. So I did another reading also. I was going to save the reading exercises for later, but I really wanted to start peeling away with the Hansa anxiety that's happening of just seeing a wall of Hansa characters. And so I did one exercise. It was the questions at the top, or one part of an exchange at the top. Exchange, by exchange I mean conversation at the top, and then another part at the bottom, and there were 5 and 5, and you had to match them, which sounds easy and was extremely easy in HSK1, fairly easy in HSK2. Strip away all the opinion, add a lot more nuance and a lot less repeated words. Like in HSK1 and HSK2, in the test, I could do it really fast because there were keywords that matched, and then I could check to make sure, kind of read them one after another and make sure they make sense together. so I could do it that way and go through it rather quickly. That's not the case in HSK3, which is good. So they've stopped letting you get away with just keywords. Yay! But it took a lot longer. I didn't actually time that one, but between the 3 listenings and the 1 reading, I spent 2 hours. That doesn't make sense. Maybe I just did 2 listenings. Wait, I'm gonna go check. Hold on. Okay, so this is chapter 2. I did 1 listening, 2 listening. Oh, I only did 2 listenings. Wow. So there's only one of the 1, 2, 3, 4. Oh, I didn't realize that. Okay, with HSK3, I go back on what I said earlier in this video. There's only 1 that has pictures. The rest of them are straight Hansa. This is going to come up backwards because I'm using the wrong phone. But you can see there's hardly any opinion. There's some explanation up here in English and... No, there's an even opinion there. It's just English and Hansa. Sorry, English and Chinese. Hansa characters actually make up the Chinese language. People don't say, write to me in Hansa. They say, that's Chinese. I mean, write to me in Chinese. Anyway, they don't actually say that. They just say, send me a message. Did they even say that? I don't know. Let me know. I don't know what the phrase is in Chinese yet. I'm not functional. Okay, so I did 2 listenings in 1 hour. And then I think what I remember as being a whole hour is this 1 reading that you can't see because it's going to show up backwards. It has 5. Again, it's the part is at the top, part is at the bottom, and you're supposed to match them. The absolute crazy thing is I have my answers. I feel really confident in it, actually, because I'm using Pleco, I'm using the glossary, I'm using the grammar section of the course book, and I feel like with all of those, I can understand what's happening in them. Oh, no. I used that for the listening. I didn't actually use any of those resources for the reading. Man, I just did this like an hour ago. Why is my memory so bad? Anyway, for this, I just stared at this. I didn't actually use any resources, but I also couldn't find the answers, so I had to email the publisher again. I had to do this for HSK1 and HSK2 and now HSK3 because I got the answers for the first 20, but for 21 through the rest of the workbook, the answers weren't listed in the same area, which doesn't make any sense whatsoever. So I had to contact them again. So hopefully I can find out in the next few days how I did on that reading. But that 1 reading did take me 1 hour, and I wrote, holy, literally I put little stars there. I said, holy, this is hard, because I like to put the dates and a note so that when I go back and it's easy, I know about how long. And it seems to be like a 2 or 3 week period. If I go back, it's significantly easier. That was true for HSK1 and HSK2. Will that be true for HSK3? I don't know. But putting dates on it and putting comments on the difficulty level really helps when I go back, because it reminds me the first time I touch a chapter, it's always excruciating. There were maybe 1 or 2 examples in the previous 2 levels of HSK where that was not true, where it was like a certain theme that was easy, or they didn't go super crazy on the nuanced grammar. Okay, fine. But in general, the first time I start a chapter, it's excruciating. And then as time goes on, it gets easier. So I have to just keep coming back to it again and again and again and again and again. And I have a lot of residual, I don't know this because I didn't study HSK2 very well, guilt happening. And I'm trying to just push past that. If I missed it in HSK2, I'm going to have to just learn it in HSK3. I've also got review chapters that I'm doing in HSK2, so I'll either catch it in that or I'll catch it in the new stuff. Either way, I will catch up. But the oh my gosh, I missed it guilt is not doing me any good. If anything, it's stopping me from doing repeated actions again and again and again. And I think this is another one of the pillars. I think I'm up to 4 pillars. I don't even think they're pillars anymore because it's turned into a friggin' army. But I think that's also one of the things that held me back is expecting to remember everything all the time. I think my husband calls it like lazy perfectionist. You want it to be so perfect that you don't do it. And I have to get over that now. Because this past week, last week, because it's only Monday, but last week I really sucked at coming back and doing lots. There's lots of chapter 1 I haven't done. And I'm going to go back to it once I get into a rhythm. But as of right now, there is lots of chapter 1 I just didn't push through because I didn't keep coming back to it. And the guilt was getting bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger, and that's old habits. Old habits. So tonight I literally sequestered myself in a corner of a coffee shop with a giant fruit juice and a plug so my phone would keep working so I could do the listening. And I said, okay, from 7 to 9, I'm sitting here and I'm doing this. And I took out all my papers and my phone and my headphones, and I just did that. Okay, I did check my email occasionally, but let's face it, you need some mental breaks. But generally speaking, I put myself in that spot and I was like, I'm going to do this for 2 hours. I kept putting it off for the past week. I did very little of chapter 1, and that's not how you progress. Keep repeating, 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 repeating. Regardless of my emotions, I need to do tasks. That should be my I should have a hat with that on for HSK3. Forget about your guilt. You are not perfect. You will never be perfect. This is a really big hat, apparently. But just forget the guilt. Keep doing the tasks. Keep coming back to it. Keep practicing the language. Keep listening. When I was listening to the HSK stuff every day, literally I think I was doing 5, 6, 7 days a week, a lot of the weeks. When I would come the next day and listen, it was so much easier. Now, with having missed a few days of listening, to start a new chapter that wasn't that hard, it was incredibly painful. So I need to just keep coming back and back and back and back and back and back. I just need to do frequent tasks, which is why I like writing down the dates, because then I know, hey, I haven't done this for a day, 2 days, 3 days. Wow, where have I been? That kind of thing. So I like writing down the dates. All right, that's redundant to the nth degree. I'm going to go now because, as you can imagine, 2 hours of no opinion for the first time was a little hard. Actually, the first hour was listening. But it was, yeah, the transcript was... I keep saying things that are not true. I'm lying to you. I'm so sorry. I'm going to go now before I lie to you again. Thank you for watching this. If you like this kind of video, please subscribe, pass it on, all that kind of good stuff. Thank you. Satyen.